Do it reverence.
Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to go ahead and actually review The Fall of the House of Usher. Now, I'm actually going to do this a little bit differently now, in that I'm going to go ahead and actually we're going to read about it a little bit as far as what the synopsis says. We're actually going to watch the trailer, and then I'm going to go and actually give you my initial expectations of what I think this is going to be, or what I'm going to feel about this, or whatever the case may be. Because as you know, I always go and actually watch the first 2 episodes, and then I go ahead and actually I'll come back and give you my review. So I'm actually trying this a little bit of different format, so stick with me. Hopefully you like it, and let's just see how this goes. So it looks like The Fall of the House of Usher, which is a whole lot of words to me. So that premiered in October of 2023 on Netflix. Now it looks like it's got 8 episodes to it. I'm gonna guess that they're probably about an hour or so, considering that the total runtime of the series is like 8 hours. So do the math on that. A little bit about 8 hours of each episode. So it's a drama horror, and it says to secure their fortune and future, 2 ruthless siblings build a family dynasty that begins to crumble when their heirs mysteriously die one by one. Who's actually in this one? Carla Gugino, Bruce Greenwood. I know Bruce, like all his stuff. Mary McDonald, not familiar with her. Henry Thomas, that's actually interesting. Child star of the 80s, maybe the early 90s, talking about like Elliot and E.T. One of my favorite cult classics, Cloak and Dagger. So he's in it. It's interesting. And I see a whole lot of other people on here that I'm not necessarily familiar with, although Michael Trucco, that sounds familiar. Let's see. Carl Lumbly, he's a good character actor. I like him. Oh, Mark Hamill's in this. Okay. And Kate Siegel, even though I don't know her by face, I know her name is very synonymous with like dark, scary, horror type of genre or whatever. So stars in this is actually pretty decent. It's got some good lineups in here. Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately, I mean, it's horror, so it's not really my genre per se. But it looks like there's, secure as far as a drama horror, so it's not meant to be like gory or anything like that. So I'm probably gonna say that, I might be kind of like on the fence about it a little bit, not entirely sure. But you know what? Let's go ahead and actually take a look at the trailer to really see if we can figure out what's going on.
It's time. It's time. It's time.
Okay, see all the spookiness here.
Your Honor, no matter how much evidence stacked against them, the Usher crime family stands stronger and darker than ever before.
Anyone comes after us, we will exhaust our arsenal until the threat's neutralized.
By neutralized, you mean sued into oblivion on the streets?
Neutralized. Like dead.
You guys, we really should get together more often. It's just a balm for the soul.
Roderick Usher, your family is a collection of stunted hearts whose time has come.
Who are you?
Consequence. And tonight is consequential.
I'm gonna head out. I've got an appointment with your dad.
Your brother's dead.
This is tragic, but a few "my heart will go on" tweets will pat it out.
This was no accident. You have been targeted. And this woman knows everything.
It's time, Roderick. What did you do?
I'm afraid you're ringside for my reckoning, old friend.
I don't even own anything funeral black. Wait, that's not true. It's just fucking satin.
Satin is silk for poor people, and no one should wear it to a funeral unless they died in it.
Are we safe?
If we don't stop her, you won't have a family left.
Frankly, I think you've forgotten what I am.
Nevermore. 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 Nevermore.
The House of Usher. May it rest in peace.
Okay, so that was actually a very interesting, very horror inspired, obviously, trailer. So it's kind of like what we read about is that this definitely is going to go into drama horror, probably going to be a little bit more of a psychological horror, but then we saw some goriness in there. Um, I actually expect it to be very similar to be kind of like a Glass Onion meets like the Edgar Allan Poe. This is based off of a short story by Edgar Allan Poe, for those of you that don't know. So um, I kind of see that as what this is going for. It probably is going to be okay. I don't anticipate it going and actually being bust. I mean, I'm looking at the stars in there, looking at the concept. It seems okay or whatever. So sounds like it's going to be a nice Halloween type of story to go with on there. But it could totally disappoint me and be horrible, and it could be fantastic. Not entirely sure. Honestly, for my expectations, I just expected to give a little bit of. First and foremost, I do feel like it's going to mess with your head a little bit. So what the trailer's trying to give out there is that it's going to be more psychological thriller than anything else. Two, I think it's going to be very heavy based in family drama type of thing on there. I mean, when you get that from the synopsis and then overall, the trailer kind of goes more into that there's going to be concerns there as far as probably interpersonal relationships are really going to be heavy driven on this. And then lastly, I'm hoping for some good effects on there. I can't always tell by the trailers or what have you how effects and sound effects and things like that are gonna do. But for horror, that's always a big thing is making sure that the sound effects, that the visual effects really hit to really draw you in and scare you and all that kind of good stuff. So um, yeah, those are my expectations. Me again, I'm kind of on the fence about this. I'm not a horror fan, but I do like psychological thrillers and horrors. That and sci-fi horrors are like the horrors that I really kind of dig. The rest of them, not so much. So it's from the perspective of somebody that is kind of like a middle of the road type of thing. I'm more of a casual viewer for this type of genre. So it'll be impressive if they impress me and pull me in. As you know, we go ahead and actually do all that kind of stuff. If you like how this is sounding, do me a favor, click like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for my reactions after watching the first two episodes of The Fall of the House of Usher. Let's see what we get. All right. So, after watching two episodes of The Fall of the House of Usher, here's some of my thoughts. After episode one, I can tell you this is very much like I predicted of being kind of like very Glass Onion esque with the family drama and all that kind of stuff. So it's crazy like that. They actually take time to go ahead and actually talk about family members and a couple of times where they're all together, and then giving them their own standalone thing so you kind of piece out who they are, their personalities, all that kind of good stuff. There's some forced interaction that kind of really makes you understand who doesn't like who and all that kind of stuff. So kind of really get that in the first episode. There is definitely some jumping of timelines in this series, and I believe it's going to be that way going forward. Just to look back, because the whole thing is actually looking back on what has occurred. And so that aspect of it is definitely present in the first episode. The last aspect of it is kind of like they have, it seems to be like it's going to be kind of a deal with the devil type of thing. That's where the first episode kind of leaves you off. So it's the first episode. And the second one, it seems that the subsequent episodes from episodes 2 through, what is that, maybe 6 or 7? There's 8 episodes. So at least the next 5 episodes or so are going to be telling the various different deaths that happened across the family or what have you. So this one actually concentrates on a specific one, but it does a lot more to show you like the conniving and debauchery of the family as a whole. You definitely see that in episode 2, and There is a real true horror scene at the end of episode 2 that really will kind of, for you horror fans out there, that's going to be very much a welcome sight for you guys. So those are my thoughts of the 2 episodes. Overall, I would say that the acting for me is okay. These are kind of like the types of characters that I personally don't really like to watch because everyone is different levels of like greedy, selfishness, or narcissistic, paranoid, all this kind of stuff. So they're not always pleasurable characters to go ahead and actually watch and interact with. But all the actors in this series actually played them pretty well. Now, some of them were kind of a little bit over the top, but overall, I think that everybody did justice to the characters in the way that they were written. So my standout would probably be Mary McDonald as Madeline. She just eats up every scene that she's in. I really liked her character. She was kind of like the standout for everybody. Everybody else is kind of like either different levels of like being decent or a little bit above decent or what have you. But Mary McDonald really kind of stands out. For me, I would go ahead and actually give the acting in the series probably like around about a B, B minus. As far as the way that the story is laid out and the storytelling here, I'm not a fan of the jumping around in this particular series. Knowing how everything ends up is, and then kind of going back a way to see how it all occurs, kind of takes some of the mystique out of a mystery or a psychological thriller like this. I mean, don't get me wrong, the scenes are actually done either competently or in well in some aspects. But the structure of the story kind of takes away from the mood of the series for me. The stitching together, the story seems to be kind of unnecessary for the framework of the series. And it's kind of like, for me, basically, the gist of it is I'm interested in the story and I'm interested in the destination, but I hate how we're going to arrive there. That's kind of the way that I feel about the storytelling in this particular series. So overall, for the story, the storytelling, and the way that everything is going to be conveyed out, I'm probably going to give it about a C, C minus. So some of my closing arguments before I get to that verdict. The sound and visual effects are good but not great in this series. The camera work and framing of scenes was pretty good. The biggest thing that you want in a horror, especially a psychological horror, is to kind of feel like something is always just out of your knowledge, just out of your reach of what you're shown. But we're kind of shown it in the beginning of the series and definitely in episode 2 that I feel like the series is building a puzzle that I kind of already know how it's going to look. And that's not quite as fun for me. So those are kind of like the thoughts that I've had, everything for this particular series. Let me get you my verdict. For mains of psychological thrillers, horrors, and especially family murder mysteries, watch one episode. You're going to get the gist of the story, meet all the characters, and it'll give you the vibe of the series in that first episode. If you're into hedonistic vibes and tendencies and all that kind of stuff, you'll want to watch the second episode as well to get a full vibe of what this family is really about. And I would encourage that for those of you that really want to see that next level type stuff. For casuals, I'm also going to say watch one episode. The story and the vibe is goth enough and depressing enough to give you like some of the creepy feels. And there's some good characters to identify with. But you'll be able to tell if the storytelling, the mythos, and the destination will be of interest going forward with you within one episode. So again, for both main and casual audiences, I'm going to say watch one episode. And that's what I have for The Fall of the House of Usher, now showing on Netflix. Check it out.
Nevermore.
The House of Usher.
Stay for the entire review. I appreciate you. I hope you like this method. I'm going to try it out a few more times, see if it really catches on. But if you like how this sounded for you, go ahead and actually click a like. If you really, really like this and you want me to go ahead and actually do more reviews and all that kind of good stuff, click subscribe so I can do some more. And if you want, you can always go to actually watch some of my other videos here that the algorithm seems to think that you might like. But until the next time, I'll holla at you. Take care of yourself.